Well, welcome to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center, located in beautiful downtown Madera. And I'm glad to be here today. I hope you are also. Today I'm going to talk about, usually when I talk, do solo shows without an interview, I talk about things that we can improve our life with, things that we can create more good in our life, spiritual connections, stuff like that. And today's not going to be any different, except that I'm going to talk about something today that I don't usually talk about, but it is necessary to talk about it from time to time. And I had a few things show up in my life the last couple of weeks that made me want to take some time and really address this issue. And, when we look at the world at large, when I get to my topic here, you'll understand that there's a lot of it going on, and that's this thing that we call hate. There's enough in the world today that we can tag hate to, whether it be the international conflicts, or some people they get all wrapped up in the thing of politics and all this sort of stuff, but it can even get down closer into our personal lives. And we have issues with school, with bullying, and just we find it just kind of, it's filtered into everywhere in our life. And the thing is, I've worked very hard to eliminate that concept from my own personal consciousness and being. And it's a work in progress, and I want to share some things with you today. But it's amazing, even for those people that really work on it, how it shows up in our life in so many different ways. Some of the most loving people that I know use this word, and they refer to themselves in the process. I hate that TV show, or I hate this, or I hate that, and they don't even think about it. But in truth, and that's what I'm talking about is truth, in order to live a harmonious life, and that is our ultimate goal, is to live life harmoniously, we really need to do a little house cleaning from time to time, and this is one of those areas where we really have to pay attention, and we really have to do some house cleaning, because it's insidious. Society tells us it's okay on some levels, and we'll get to that. And sometimes it just feels gut level good to get down and really proclaim your hate for something. Oh, I hate this or whatever. But the sad thing is that it's more than just words. It's an effect. It's an effect on your life and actually beyond your life. And it can have an effect so much beyond your life that can really mess the world up. And so, it becomes important that we look at this and we address it. I got a couple things I want to read to you here. And one of the things, a collection of quotes that I've pulled, and one of them goes, "Our foolish belief that we can eliminate hate with hate sets the foundation for creating more hate." And this was brought to mind to me recently. A young friend of mine was sharing something that he felt really, really connected to and powerful about. It's an individual that, in his perspective from life, had caused problems, and we got to talking about it, and he was sharing this, and I told him, I said, shared hate just creates more hate in the world. And he thought about it for a bit, and then he took a little bit of, it just kind of bothered him, and so he came back to me. He says, I do a lot of good in the world. He says, that I'm a loving, caring person, and he went on to give me all the reasons why what he does is a general person makes him a good person. And you know what? I believe him in so many ways. But our unconscious connection to hate creates more hate in the world, and there's just no escaping from it. All the good that somebody does, all the good thinking that we do, if we allow hate to be a part of our consciousness, if we allow hate to be a part of our life, it kind of just neutralizes the whole thing. And getting people that don't understand the idea of an infinite divine being, an infinite oneness, an infiniteness of all creation, a unity of all of mankind, getting people to recognize the power that hate has to create disruption and to create sadness and to create just real unhappiness in the world, and that it's like a virus and it multiplies. We use the words, we hold the consciousness, and we create the energy in the world. And for me, it's just sad. And so I'm taking today, and we're going to address this thing called hate, because boy, it is a bugger in the world, but it's a bugger that we don't have to buy into, and we don't have to play that game. And you know what? So much of it is just habitual, because we learned growing up to use this word hate. Like I said, I hate that TV show, or I hate that book, or I hate this person, or whatever, and we don't even think about it. And we don't, if we're really called on it, we don't really have a feeling, a gut level feeling of hate. But you know what? Hate word has power. And it has power as it goes out into the world, just like all the good words that we do. And you don't want to go through your day-to-day life working hard in consciousness, creating a spiritual life, trying to create more good in your life, just to undermine it. And think about the ways that we can see in society how so often that it happens, that people do undermine the good that they do. You know, they get tied into judgment, and by judgment they judge something to be good or bad, and if they judge it to be bad, it's very oftentimes that they associate it with that word hatred. And they justify this because, well, it's bad. You know, bad thing, we should hate bad things. And you know, there's even, if you wanted to get into it, there's even biblical references to righteous hatred. But that's not what the master teacher Jesus taught, and it's not the teachings that if you study spiritual teachings, that's not the teachings that we find that come down to us through history. You know, Jesus said, as he was talking to the people, he said 2 commandments, and on these all the law hangs. Love God with all that you are, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And there was no wiggle room in there, but, you know, the guy that's a different color, a different nationality, a different race, a different gender or whatever, that we can make an exception for, a different belief system. And yet we find this prevalent throughout the world today, that if you are a different belief, a different nationality, and different. And so we hold this judgment of differentness, and then we apply our hatred or our dislike, ultimately hatred, to it. We lose, and the world loses. And there's just a better way. We can create a better world, and we can create a better way. And that's what's exciting about this concept that we call New Thought or religious science, is that when we begin to understand that there's a power and a presence for good in the universe that's available to us as we avail ourselves to it. Ernest Holmes says that power is within you, and you can use it at the level that you understand that it's within you, and you can use it. But it's like a flowing river, if you will. You know, it's a flowing river of goodness and godness and energy, and it can flow through us and into our lives. But the minute we bring hate into that picture, we shut the flow off. And I explained this to some people the other day. In a different time in my life, I studied electrical theory, and there's a real simple understanding. If we pass an electrical current along a copper wire, the wire starts here and it runs here, and this is our initial input, and this is where the good's going to manifest itself. And so we trigger that good thoughts, good feelings, and boom, and off it goes, and it's traveling down this wire. But right here, right in this place, there's a spot, and we call that spot hatred. And so as this good energy gets here, it shorts to ground, and it never gets to the end point. As we're working on creating our life, as we're working on creating good in our life, and we allow hatred to exist there, to live there, we short to ground our good. And as we do that, you know, we spin our wheels. We create more hate in the world, more unhappiness. And that's just, to me, that's just sad, because it's something that we can change. It's something that we can change for the good for ourselves, and ultimately, as we change it for good for ourselves, we can change it for good in the world. You know, you can create a world of good for yourself. but you got to clean house first. And so we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we'll get a little background to understanding this concept of hate, how it exists, and how it plays out in our life, and we're going to move forward. So I'll see you when we come back. I'm looking forward to this.
Sunshine Natural Health in Tulare, California is your source for nature's best remedies. Call Sunshine Natural Health at 559-688-2063 and get healthy.
Maintain your independence with the caring support of an entire community at Cedar Creek Senior Living. For more information, call 559-673-2345.
Need security for your business or event? Central Valley Talk recommends JLS Global Metro Security. Call JLS Global Metro Security at 559-273-0097. If you're considering a reverse mortgage in the Central Valley or just want more information, contact Jerry Carmichael. She's experienced and, more important, she's local. Call 559-903-6903. Call Brian Cossack today at 559-977-1976. Protecting you and those you love financially. Make an appointment today.
Selecting for the best employee or boss? Make an informed decision. Learn more at teamplayerhr.com.
At Miracle Realty, we've been providing premier professional residential sales and property management in residential and commercial property for years. We manage single-family homes, condominiums, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, office space, and much more. No matter what experience level you have in property management, Miracle Realty strives to make your experience as stress-free as possible. Serving Madera and the surrounding areas, we use the latest technology and provide top-notch service. We're a trusted and reliable name in residential sales and property management with the experience to answer any questions or complications that might come up. Give us a call today or visit us online for more information.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
It's New Thought Talk. Welcome back. I'm your host, Steve Walling. Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera. And this show, we're talking about hate and, having this discussion and how hate can really create havoc in our lives, if you will. So I introduced it in the last segment. I want to move forward now. I want to read you a couple of things here. Psychoanalysis view, hate defined as an ego state that wishes to destroy the source of its unhappiness. More recently, the Penguin Dictionary of Psychology defines hate as a deep, enduring, intense emotion expressing animosity, anger, and hostility towards a person, group, or an object. That's pretty powerful words. But they all describe something, and we're going to step back a little bit. Hate just didn't happen. It wasn't something that somebody introduced into our lives per se. It's been around a long time, but it's very much tied into something in the brain and the mind, and that's this whole fear complex. And the fear complex that I'm going to share with you is a relatively new discovery in neuroanatomy, but it involves things that are called like the amygdala and the hippocampus and the prefrontal lobes. And what we found, or what science has found, is that those parts of the brain were evolutionarily developed to create this fear reaction within our bodies. And in doing so, in this fear reaction, the primary thing that comes up is this thing that we call fight or flight. And I'm going to ask Bill to put up, I got a little cartoon to go with this. And this fight or flight mechanism is very interesting and very powerful because it gives us a response option. Option A, option B. And it really doesn't give us anything else. Fight, it gives us all the strength and energy into the muscles that we need. Flight, all the strength and energy in the muscles so we can run away. And that may have been fine for our cave-dwelling ancestors, but today in this world, it really doesn't serve us too well. But those physiological changes are taking place within the body, and as a result, there are things that go along with it. And you add to that an overlay of an emotional feeling, and the feeling that goes with it is this feeling we call fear. Or maybe not fear. Maybe it's anger. Or maybe it's worry. Or maybe it's hatred. You see, ultimately, the roots of hatred come back to this fear complex within our body. We fear something that is going to overcome us, take from us, steal from us, or whatever is going to judge us incorrectly, and all the other things. And we develop this anger through our fight or flight mechanism to prepare ourselves to deal with it. It's there, it's hardwired, and darn if we just have to deal with it sometimes. But you know what? That's what old thinking tells us. New thought tells us we don't have to deal with it. We can begin to learn to overcome it by creating new pathways within the brain. And that's another exciting thing that neuroscience has told us, that we can create new pathways in the brain, and to a certain extent we can actually circumnavigate this whole fear mechanism. Now, why is that important? It's important because thoughts are not just something that we have in our head. Thoughts are things. Thoughts have power. Hatred in the world, every person within the range of this telecast has experienced hate in their lives, either as a target or as a generator of hate. And of course, we see it in the news. And how many times do you look at the news and you just say to yourself, boy, I wish that, if we could only just get along, so to speak. Well, we can. But in order for us to do this, we have to make individual changes. You see, making a better world, making the world a better place, is not something that we can enforce by law. It's not something that our leaders can tell us that we have to do. And it's even not something that our spiritual leaders can tell us that we have to do in a way to make us do it. It's a choice and a decision that we have to do and make for ourselves. And when we do, we begin to empower ourselves. You see, the perfect life is a harmonious life. And a harmonious life is a life that has no disruptions of sort. And a harmonious life is a life that actually puts us in alignment with the divine spirit, divine energies, and it makes us a recipient, if you will, of good from so many different ways. Have you ever met somebody or run into somebody or know somebody that their demeanor is pleasant and harmonious, and life for them is just, it's kind of like it's a cakewalk. It's so easy, it unfolds, and that's the power of harmony in our lives. We talk about, we in New Thought, we talk about the divine presence being love. Well, love knows no hate. So as we hold hate individually, we keep ourselves, at least in consciousness, apart from our divine creator. That makes us feel lonely. It makes us feel depressed. It makes us feel worried. And it creates more loneliness, depression, worry, and negative things in our life. Boy, wouldn't you like to get rid of that? People go, yes, Reverend Steve, I'd like to get rid of that. So what do I got to do? I got to start thinking happy thoughts every day. Well, that's not a bad place to start. Working with affirmations is another good place. Meditation is a very powerful tool. But how about if we just started with focusing on how we employ this word and this emotion of hate in our life? How about we start paying attention to it, and as it comes up, we begin to go, you know what? Maybe I don't have to bring hate into this. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that we become a doormat for people. It doesn't mean that we allow people that we believe that we should have righteous anger and hatred towards, those people that are doing nefarious or evil, what we call evil or bad things in the world. We can hold them accountable, no doubt about it. But we don't have to employ hate in the process of accountability. One of the most remarkable things that I can recall in recent times was with the announcement of the assassination of Osama bin Laden. It was a day or two later that the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, was speaking at USC. And during his presentation, a student asked him about this assassination. And he said, sometimes, and this was his response, he said, sometimes situations require that countermeasures must be taken. And in those situations, we take those countermeasures. But he went on to clarify that we are still holding the individual, Osama bin Laden, in compassion, in a loving consciousness. it doesn't mean that we don't do the things necessary to defend society. Society as a whole has a right to protect its citizens, no doubt about it. But we can love those that attempt to harm society. Wow, that's kind of a big step, huh? Well, it is and it isn't. It's getting over old habit patterns and getting over old biases. One of my favorite teachers who's no longer with us is a fellow by the name of Krishnamurti, and one of his quotes, and I never get this exact, but I can paraphrase it. And he says, if you call yourself a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or a European or an Anglo or whatever, you're creating violence. He says, you know why you're creating violence? Because as you hold yourself in separateness, you hold yourself separate from humanity, from the greater unity. The man who or woman who is truly a humanitarian holds themselves a part of the greater whole. They see us as a oneness. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's the underlying bottom line, and there is no exceptions. And we can do that. We can do it in tough situations. We can see good where habit and race consciousness and society tell us that evil exists, because in truth, there is no evil in the world per se. If God is love and God is all there is. Now, that doesn't mean we don't experience those things that we call evil. Absolutely we do. But when things happen to us, how we experience them is our choice. Realizing that some people do things that are deemed to be wrong is there's nothing wrong with that. You set your boundaries, but you do so without judgment. You allow those people the realization of the creative being, the creation of the beingness that they are, but you hold them accountable for their actions. And therein lies our pathway to a greater life and a greater good. You know, a parent doesn't disown their child because they do something wrong. We love them and we hold them accountable, and then we move forward and the child learns. And that may be very simplistic in some ways, but there's a greater underlying truth there. And the thing is, as we release hate from ourselves, as we let that hatred go, we begin to experience a greater harmony in our lives. We begin to experience a greater good. And that's powerful. You know, you can't plant even the smallest seed of hate and not expect to experience a full crop of that which you have planted. It's going to happen. What you put out will come back to you. So we learn to put out something different than hate, so that something different than hate comes back to us. You know, when people are sharing their hatred with you, you have a right to ask that they not do that. It's okay that they share their discontent with something if they feel that some injustice has been done. You know, we're right now in the middle of what we call, or I call the silly season, which is, you know, the whole political thing that's going on. And boy, people get all up in arms over their particular person that is their candidate. But the hatred that they share towards the opposing candidate or opposing parties, think about the damage that's doing psychically. Think about the damage that's doing energetically. Think about the damage that's creating in the world. And it's not that one side needs to give up and not stand by their principles. Absolutely stand by their principles. But let's stand by the principles and discuss the principles and discuss the measures back and forth, the issues of the principles, instead of trying to personally assassinate an individual because we don't particularly care for their political point of view. You know, there's no difference between that or, you know, the color of their skin or the faith that they are or the country they come from. You see, hate is just hate. You know, we can stand in our justification for our hate, but we're standing on swamp ground, and it's going to give away, and we're going to drown in the swamp if we don't get away from it. And that is the power of this realization. And that's why today, when I was coming down to do the show, it was really strong on my mind. Like I say, this young man that I was talking to, he has a lot of love in him. He's got great intentions. But we nullify all of that And you say, well, yeah, but the tensions are so good. Maybe a little bit's not bad. You cannot, because God does not realize big or small, only what is. You cannot say a little bit of hate is okay, because your little bit of hate may be a difference than somebody else's little bit of hate. And it's time that we call it for what it is. It's useless, it's detrimental, and it damages us as individuals. And we can change it. And you can change it. You can change it in such a powerful way within yourself, and it will change your life. So I hope you've been following this. I hope you've gotten something out of it. We're going to take our next commercial break, and we'll talk a little bit more about it when we come back. See you then.
Selecting for the best employee or boss? Make an informed decision. Learn more at teamplayerhr.com.
Call Brian Kosick today at 559-977-1976. Protecting you and those you love financially. Make an appointment today.
Low testosterone affects most men. Dr. Kevin Lester discusses a testosterone optimization program.
The top program is a testosterone optimization program designed to improve men's health and well-being. Men's testosterone, which diminishes gradually from the time they're about 30 or 35 to about the time they die, which is hopefully 86, 87, they gradually have less and less testosterone. Your belly becomes fatter, your blood vessels become worse, you become out of shape, you get grouchy. Come in for a free measurement, and then it's almost always insured. Almost all insurance companies cover it, including Medicare. But it's free to come in for the first consultation. After that, even if you're a cash patient, it's $140 a month.
Find out more about the testosterone optimization program by visiting tophatmed.com or calling 559-431-2332. Mike Briggs Properties sells homes in the Tower District and throughout Fresno and the Valley. Did you know we also sell businesses? Why work to build someone else's business when you could build your own? The small businesses we have for sale include restaurants, professional practices, and you can even own your own TV show. This week's featured businesses include an established Pizza by the Slice business in the heart of the Tower District, and also available a laundromat in Van Ness Village. If you are interested in owning a business, call Mike Briggs Properties at 486-6758 and ask for details.
Here at Central Valley Talk, we've chosen Select Business Systems to provide for our copy, print, and scanning needs. We used to think it was cheaper to purchase our own toner and maintain our own office equipment. But now, with the expertise and experience of Select Business Systems, our office workflow is running at peak performance, saving our company time and money. They've truly set us up with our new Sharp multifunction copier, streamlining our office with the press of a button. To find out how you can improve your office technology, call Select Business Systems at 446-0123 or visit their website at selectsharp.com.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center. Today our discussion's been on this powerful, emotional presence that we call hate. We've been moving forward, addressing this, kind of covering some of the issues about hate and describing it and some of the mechanisms. I want to read a few things more as we go through this segment. And I'm going to start here. It says, we can and should acknowledge wrong. Got that. But can we accept the wrong without hate? And that's our first step. Can we accept the wrong without hate, whatever the wrong is? Whether it's something that's going on in our cities and society, or something that's going on in the world, or maybe something that's very personal in our life. Can we accept the wrong without hate? In the acknowledgement of wrong and the acknowledgement of truth, we can overcome the wrong. And that's where our power lies. And if you notice, there was nothing in there that was outside of ourselves. That's the beauty of this. We have that power within ourselves. It's powerful, and it changes our lives, it changes the world. If we hold hate for the wrongdoer, we have failed to overcome ourselves, and we've become the wrongdoer as we create more hate. And that's the message of today. You see, we take the hate and we transform it and we multiply it. I talked about a little earlier in the show this idea of electrical wire and shorting to ground and stuff. But, in society, we see those great big electrical wires, on those great big towers. And we all know that they're bringing electricity to the cities and towns around the nation and stuff. But every so often along the way, there are these transformer stations. And in order to have that energy moved along those lines for an extended period of mileage and stuff, it has to be reboosted, so to speak, and that's what these transformer stations do. Well, that's what we do to hate when we take and we apply our hate into the world. We take the hate that's already there and we just boost it a little bit more and we push it along. And it's real easy to make the excuse that, oh, gee, I'm only a single person in billions of people in the world. How much difference can it make? But you know what? It does make a difference. And it adds up. As we begin to create good within ourselves, we affect the people around us. As we affect the people around us, we affect a greater community. As that greater community affects the greater community around it, and it grows and it grows and it grows. If we hold hate for the wrongdoer, we have failed to overcome ourselves, and we become the wrongdoer as we create more hate. We are either a part of the greater whole or a oneness of creation and divine unity. And that is the truth. We are that divine unity. And you know what? There is that connection. There is a energetic, psychic connection between us and all of creation. And that is one of the most powerful aspects of the New Thought message, that there is a power and a presence for good in the universe that's available to you as you avail yourself to it. And as Emerson used to say, we've got to get our bloated selves out of the way, and our bloated selves is that self that holds to hatred. Now, one of the things that really kicks this up for us, so to speak, is that thing we call the ego, or I like to call it our false self. It's that thing that tells you that you've been disrespected. It's that thing that tells you that somebody is looking at you the way they shouldn't. It's that thing that gives you all the judgments, and its henchmen, the rational mind or the logical mind, piles on, and it builds up all these reasons why you should be angry and why you should hate. But it doesn't serve you. The ego, the false self, has never served you well. It has always graded you and judged you, and it's always graded you and judged you as less than. It keeps you from living in harmony in your life, and it gives you the reasons why you can't live in harmony in your life. And that's not true. That's why we call it the false self. When that false self begins to, and we can feel it, it doesn't talk to us. It's not like one of those things, we got an angel on this shoulder and we got a little devil on this shoulder and they're talking to us. But in its own way, it does speak to us from within ourselves. And it tells you that you should be indignant. It tells you that you should be angry. It tells you that you are separate from a greater whole, and you're not. Our spiritual path is a journey of rediscovery of the truth of who we are. And as we walk that path, as we begin to move forward on that path, we begin to realize that I'm not separate from, and you're not separate from, that we are truly all one, that the presence is a presence that is infinite, universal, and it's a oneness, and we're all some part of that oneness, that greater good. How can we hate ourselves? Well, some of us do. Again, that's the ego that tells you they're less than. But if you get beyond that, if you get to the truth of who you are, all you can do is love yourself. And as you love yourself, you learn that you can love your neighbor. And as you learn that you can love your neighbor, amazing things happen. That neighbor that's always been a pain in your neck or whatever? You begin to work, and you don't have to talk to them. You don't have to go over and interact with them. You begin to do that work within yourselves. You begin to develop a consciousness of good for them, a consciousness of, they're also a creation of the divine creator. Yeah, they may do this, that, or the other that I find to be irritating, but that's not who they are. That's just what they do. And I can get past what they do and get to the who that they are, and I can give up this thing we call hate. When something comes across the table that I find that is irritating, I don't have to declare hatred. I can declare that it irritates me. But if it irritates me, I can find some way to get beyond irritation. If it's something that I hate, I can't get beyond hate. There is no getting beyond hate. Hate is an endpoint in itself, and the only thing that it leads to is more of itself. So these are things that we begin to become aware as we begin to look at our lives in a conscious way. It's incredible. Work on giving it up, and you can do it. We can all do it, a little bit at a time. You find that you fall back. Don't beat yourself up for it. You can move forward. And as you move forward, you live a greater deal of harmony. And as you live a greater deal of harmony within yourself, you're going to see an expression of greater harmony outside of yourself. Go into those things that used to be something of discordant activities in your life in a harmonious way, and you're going to find that the discordant way that discordant energy is not there to the extent it was. And as you grow in this ability to live in harmony, you will begin to see that this discordant stuff begins to just completely fall away. Living in harmony brings better and greater good, better opportunities, and more agreeable conditions in our lives. I mean, isn't that what we all want? Isn't it happiness, love, and harmony, beauty and peace, joy? Aren't those the things that we're looking for in our lives? Isn't that what we're seeking to experience? One of the first steps on that path is to give up one of the greatest obstructions to that realization. And like I said, it's merely a choice. It's not what happens to us that determines how we feel. It's how we react or respond to what happens to us that determines how and what we feel. And that, my friends, determines how and what we experience in our life. It doesn't get any more plain or simple than that. If you've watched these shows and you've experienced the various things when I've talked about, creating a greater good and God working for you in your life, these are all wonderful things, all powerful things. And as we take these various tools and we incorporate them and we add this one tool in and of itself is just so incredible. And we don't speak about it a lot. Who likes to talk about hate, right? I don't like to talk about it. But sometimes we got to look at it. We got to hold it out. We got to see it for what it is. It's a falsity. It's a phony. It's a ghost. It's a boogeyman in the closet. And we've given it so much power in our lives. And by repeatedly expressing it, we've created more of it in life. And we don't have to do that. And as we don't do it as individuals, we'll find that neighbors, societies, cities, nations won't do it either. Am I a dreamer? Maybe. But I believe that we can change the world, and we do it one person at a time. We've got to give this stuff up. We don't have the luxury to live a life of laziness when it comes to something like this. Because you know what? Ultimately, you may read about it in the newspapers as somewhere far in the world away from you. But it comes home too. It comes into neighborhoods. It comes into families. It is devastating. It tears people up. And the sad thing is, it's one of those things that truly we have a power to change in the world. So why let it exist? My question to you is, why let it exist? My challenge to you today is to take the little bit that I've given you here and to continue to do studies on your own. Move forward with this. Don't just sit on it. Take it and apply it in your life. There's an organization for a complaint-free world. Look it up on the internet. You can get a little wristband that, if maybe you got to start there. Start working by removing complaints in your life so that you can get to removing the emotions that you attach to the complaints in your life. The idea with the complaint-free world bracelet is to go, I believe it's like 21 days without a single complaint. Wow, can you do that? You bet you can do that. You got to learn how to do it, though. It doesn't just happen. We don't just wake up one morning and we're just all full of love and all goodness and godness and all this sort of stuff. Your spiritual life is a process. It is something that you have to work through, and you have to commit to it. And I think it was the LA Lakers coach John Riley who once said, commitment only has two aspects to it. You either do or you don't. And there's no in between. Think about it. A life that is lived in a spiritual way, and I'm not talking about phony piety or all this stuff, is a life that creates more good in the world. So as I get ready to close this segment, I want to read something to you, and then we're going to go to a commercial break. As we glance over the pages of history, this saying of Jesus stands sure and true. For all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Those nations who have risen by the sword have fallen among the ruins of their own false hopes. History has proven that strife begets strife, that the way of the transgressor is hard. In international strife, all nations are beaten insofar as they recognize this apparent, In international strife, all nations are beaten, insofar as they have taken up the sword in hate, avarice, or lust. We do not recognize this apparent power which lasts for a day, for it is but a false gesture, defeating its own purpose as falseness ever must. Jesus, speaking from the viewpoint of eternal truth, said that all who take the sword shall perish with it. Those who have given the best to the world have always been best remembered by it and most loved throughout the ages. If we attempt to measure existence from this short span of our life, it should not be explained, and we should find no real answer to life itself. You see, hate begets hate, and strife produces strife. Love alone overcomes all and justifies the eternity of her dominion. Think on it. We'll see you when we come back.
Are you a first-time home buyer or investor? Realtor Amy Braun can introduce you to a special program tailored just for you. Call Amy Braun at 960-4155 or visit amyhbraun.com.
Need raisins? Call National Raisin Company at 559-834-5981 or online at nationalraisin.com.
I think people think of raw food or healthy food as not having much flavor, and this is so flavorful.
So very nutrient dense, and it feeds my body.
I love raw Fresno because I've learned so much about nutrition.
It's organic, and it's delicious. It's nutrient dense and very tasty.
Food that's alive, probiotics, it's healthy vegetables to get that protein, and it's a game changer. It's awesome.
Come to Raw Fresno just because I love the food. There's not too many options or any options like this anywhere.
I come back because the food is delicious.
It's definitely a new experience, the different tastes, the salad. It's absolutely delicious.
I love the food because, as I found, this food actually has a lot of flavor. It's all so good, it's hard for me to decide what to eat, so then I'll just take samples of everything.
My husband and I both are addicted to it, and it's like we go through kale withdrawals because it makes us feel better.
It's so healthy, and because it tastes so good. I love the wraps, I love the chocolate cheesecake, and I know everything in it is good for me, and I can eat it and feel good about myself.
The food is so healthy and very tasty.
I would definitely come back to Raw Fresno.
I'm not even the same person, and it's all to this food. It's just amazing. It's transforming.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back. It's New Thought Talk, and I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling. I hope you enjoyed our talk today. A little bit different than what I do, but it was something that was on my heart and on my mind that I wanted to share. But I'm going to take this last segment now and move on to something that is also near and dear to my heart, so to speak. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold up a book here. If you take a look at that, there is a picture of a fellow. I don't know if it glares on there, but that fellow looks awful familiar to me. As a matter of fact, it is me. I have a book, actually. I got 12 books, and I want to share a little bit with you about them. I I produce a daily journal that's I've been doing for a long time. The people have taken and utilized it as part of their spiritual work, their tools. They read it, they meditate on it, and they journal on it. And a while back, somebody came to me and they'd been collecting a lot of these, and they said, you know, Rev Steve, I'd like to put together a book for you. And so we talked about it, and ultimately what it ended up being was 12 books, and there's one for each month. And they're entitled A New Thought, Wit, and Wisdom of Reverend Steve Walling. And this one is January, Volume 1, A Gift for a New Year. And each month there's a different title for that month. But it's a you know, I never really thought of myself as an author, but I have really enjoyed doing this project because of the good that can come out of it for you, the individual. You see, each day there is a quote, and I do an inspirational commentary on it. And then on the next page, there's an affirmation that you can use, and then there are lines that you can use to journal in. You read it, you read what I wrote, you read the affirmation, you spend a little time meditating on it, and then you journal on it. If you utilize these every day, within the year, it'll take you a year to get through this, it will change your life. And I will guarantee that absolutely. It's a powerful thing, taking time every day to feed our spiritual life, feed our spirituality. You know, we are truly physical and spiritual beings. Now, we understand that we are a spiritual being having a physical expression we call life. But you know, this body, we have to nurture it. We have to exercise it. We got to feed it, you know, and on the various levels that it requires all the good things that makes this physical life prosper. But we also have to do it on our spiritual life if we want to grow spiritually. And society to date really hasn't placed a great deal of emphasis on growing our spiritual life. You know, for thousands of years, the standard go-to spiritual thing was, you know, you have a Sunday work and you do a little prayer and you follow through some stuff depending on what your particular faith is, and you're good to go, so to speak. But throughout history, throughout the ages, master teachers that have taken the time to plumb the depths of spirituality have learned deeper and greater truths. And these deeper and greater truths tell us that we need to nurture and feed our spiritual beingness also. And that's not just a once a week type of thing, or really even just a once a day. It's a daily, ongoing thing that we do all day. And what a greater way, or what the great way that it is to either start your day by reading something of a spiritual nature, allowing your mind to digest it, so to speak, meditating on it, and then journaling it as it connects to you, how it relates to you, how it expresses to you. And so that was the thought behind this book. And I've been real pleased with the way it worked out. And the fellow that has worked with me is Reverend Richard Lode. He's out of the Midwest, and I think we've got a web page up there where you can actually go and order the books. You order them one at a time by volume, January, February, March, so on and so forth. I think each book, the cover's pretty much the same, the color's a little bit different, but they are for each month and the number of days in the month, and you take and you can utilize it. I mean, this is for me, this is a great gift that Richard gave to me, and I believe it's a great gift that he and I have presented to you and out in the world for you to use. So, you know, I hope you take and pick up a copy and go ahead and use it. And there is on the webpage, there's an email address. You can email me. Let me know what you think about the book once you get it. See how it works for you in your life, because after all, you know, who wants to starve? Who wants to starve physically? Who wants to starve spiritually? This may not be the only way, but I believe it's a darn good way. So you take advantage of it. See if you like it. I think you will. And speaking about books, what I want to do now is move on. You know, part of the information that I've utilized to write this book comes from a web page called the New Thought Library. And as a tool, it's one of the greatest go-to tools for people. It's not necessarily easy for everybody to accumulate a library of a lot of books, particularly from pioneers, early writing, stuff like that. But in New Thought, in this spiritual process, having the understanding that our spiritual predecessors had and that they've shared through the books that they've written really help us on our journey. So you can access a lot of these books now through the New Thought Library, and it's newthoughtlibrary.com or newthoughtlibrary.org, and you can go there and you'll find early works from people like Ernest Holmes, who wrote the Science of Mind book. Even actually his earlier edition of that, I believe, is in there. You can find works by his brother, Fenwick Holmes. You can find works by the founders of the Unity Organization, Charles and Mildred Fillmore and H. Emily Cady, and you can find works by William Walker Atkinson and Genevieve Biron. She was the only student of Judge Thomas Troward, and you'll find Judge Troward's books in there. You'll find some books in there by a fellow by the name of Christian Larson. I highly recommend him and his works as a powerful, powerful resource as you begin to grow your spiritual practice and your spiritual life. Taking time every day to do a little reading, do a little journaling, do a little meditating, you just give yourself a couple of, maybe 30, 45, 60 days of doing this and see if you stay with it continuously, see what happens by the time you get to the end there. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And also, because you are on the internet and you have access to these things, you will have access to something called findacenter.com. And at findacenter.com, they have made an effort to locate as many of the various New Thought centers around the globe and include a little bit of information about them. Generally, you can find their address there. For those centers that have chosen to support their individual page through financially contributing, which is obviously it helps keep the whole process going, you may find even more information there about that particular center. But no matter where you're at in the world, you can find the center that's nearest to you just by going to findacenter.com. Again, that's another powerful resource, and I want to encourage you, if you happen to be out there and you've never experienced a New Thought celebration service, I want to encourage you to get to it and do that if you can. You see, the thing is, what people don't realize, we don't come together because we're driven by guilt. We come together to celebrate our good and to celebrate this thing we call life. But in that process of coming together, there is an energy, a synergy that we begin to experience. There's a love understanding that is just beyond incredible. So, again, I want to encourage you, if you have never been to one, go find one. Use findacenter.com. And finally, before I close out, I want to share with you that as you go through, and if you like these programs, and you'll find more of them on YouTube, you can find New Thought Talk with Rev Steve on Facebook, and you'll find some of the interviews and other teaching classes that are, programs that I've done. If you go to my center's webpage, spiritualawarenesscenter.org, you'll find that there's a link there where you can contribute. You can use PayPal, electronic check, or you can use credit cards and help support us in what we do. I would do this if I didn't make any income at all. But if I don't make any income, it's very hard to continue doing this. And it's not just me, it's the other people that are involved in supporting this. And this is a ministry of sorts. And one of the things that we do teach, and I want to just share with you before I close off, is if you have found that you have received some spiritual good, take some time to return good back to us. It helps to support us, helps to keep us moving forward. And I give you my greatest thanks for doing that. That pretty much wraps our show for today. So as we go to close, I want to remind you that the light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. And the presence of God watches over you. For truly, wherever you are, my friends, God is there. Have a great week. I'll see you later. Bye.
Are you a first-time home buyer or investor? Realtor Amy Braun can introduce you to a special program tailored just for you. Call Amy Braun at 960-4155 or visit amyhbraun.com.
Need raisins? Call National Raisin Company at 559-834-5981 or online at nationalraisin.com.
I think people think of raw food or healthy food as not having much flavor, and this is so flavorful.
So very nutrient dense, and it feeds my body. I love raw Fresno because I've learned so much about nutrition. It's organic, and it's delicious. It's nutrient dense and very tasty.
Food that's alive, probiotics, it's healthy vegetables to get that protein, and it's a game changer. It's awesome.
Come to Raw Fresno just because I love the food. There's not too many options or any options like this anywhere.
I come back because the food is delicious. It's definitely a new experience, the different tastes, the salad. It's absolutely delicious.
I love the food because, as I found, this food actually has a lot of flavor. It's all so good, it's hard for me to decide what to eat, so then I'll just take samples of everything.
My husband and I both are addicted to it, and it's like we go through kale withdrawals because it makes us feel better.
It's so healthy and because it tastes so good. I love the wraps, I love the chocolate cheesecake, and I know everything in it is good for me, and I can eat it and feel good about myself.
The food is so healthy and very tasty. I would definitely come back to Raw Fresno.
I'm not even the same person, and it's all to this food. It's just amazing. It's transforming.
CentralValleyTalk.com